In the late 1800s, in the quiet farmland of Crawford County, Ohio, the Manette family lived a life built on stability. Their home sat just outside Bucyrus, where Mervyn Jeremiah Manette had earned respect as a cattleman, a landowner, and president of the Second National Bank of Bucyrus. He believed in discipline, hard work, and the steady promise of the Midwest. But life can turn faster than anyone expects. In the mid-1890s, a series of financial blows hit the region. Markets tightened, investments failed, and the bank Mervyn helped lead began to collapse. What started as a slow decline became a financial disaster that swept away nearly everything the Manets had built. Their wealth, their security, and the life they knew in Bucyrus were suddenly gone. For Mervyn and his wife Olive, the loss was devastating. It was identity, reputation, a lifetime of work erased in months. And so, in 1897, the Manets quietly left Ohio. No farewell, no explanation. A family forced to start over. Their son, Ara Eugene Manette, was old enough to understand the weight of what had happened. The collapse in Bucyrus would shape him for the rest of his life, influencing how he thought about risk, responsibility, and the fragile nature of financial security. The Manets headed west, settling first in Colorado Springs. For Mervyn, it was a return to what he knew best: cattle. He began ranching again, rebuilding the confidence he had lost. From Colorado, the family expanded into Nebraska, acquiring land and slowly regaining their footing. It was progress, the quiet kind that comes from refusing to give up. And then, the story took a dramatic turn. As the new century approached, the American West was exploding with opportunity. Mining towns were rising overnight. Fortunes were being made in places most people had never heard of. Mervyn, now financially stable again, began investing in mining ventures. He was a businessman who understood timing. That timing led him to a dusty, fast-growing town in Nevada called Goldfield. Goldfield was unlike anything the Manets had ever seen. Founded in 1902, it became the largest city in Nevada within a few years. 20,000 people crowded into a place that barely existed a decade earlier. The streets were filled with miners, investors, gamblers, and dreamers. Goldfield was the Silicon Valley of its era, a place where fortunes were made in a single afternoon. And in the middle of that frenzy stood the Mohawk Mine. Mervyn became part owner of the Mohawk, one of the most promising claims in the region. And in 1906 and 1907, something extraordinary happened. The Mohawk Mine struck gold, not just a rich vein, but a discovery so massive that mining historians still describe it as the largest and richest gold mine ever developed up to that time. The strike was called the richest gold discovery the world had ever known. It produced wealth on a scale no one had seen before, transforming Goldfield overnight and rewriting the Manette family's future. For a man who had lost everything in Ohio, it was a moment of redemption. But what Mervyn did next is what makes this story matter. Instead of keeping the fortune for himself, he assigned the profits, roughly $5 million at the time, more than $150 million today, to his son Ara. It was more than a financial transfer. It was a passing of responsibility, a chance for the next generation to rebuild the Manette name in a way the father no longer could. And Ara, shaped by the memory of the collapse in Bucyrus, knew exactly what he wanted to do with it. He moved to Los Angeles. But Ara Manette did not just come to Los Angeles to build banks. He came to build a city. In 1914, he was appointed to the Los Angeles Public Library Board, and he was reappointed every 5 years until his death in 1936. 2 years later, in 1916, he became president of the Library Board, a position he held for the rest of his life. Manette is credited with creating the city's public library branch system, the network that brought books, education, and opportunity to neighborhoods across Los Angeles. His influence helped shape the modern Los Angeles Public Library. Using the fortune from the Mohawk Mine, Ara also began purchasing and consolidating banks throughout the region. He was disciplined, methodical, and determined to build something that would last, something that would restore the Manette legacy and serve the needs of a rapidly expanding city. His work led to the creation of Bank of America, Los Angeles, a modern institution built on the lessons of his family's past. But this story has another thread, happening hundreds of miles away. In San Francisco, an Italian-American produce merchant named Amedeo Peter Giannini was building a different kind of bank, the Bank of Italy. A bank for immigrants, laborers, and everyday people who had been ignored by traditional institutions. After the devastating 1906 earthquake, he became a legend by rescuing his bank's gold from the rubble and reopening for business on a wooden plank in the street, offering loans when no one else would. Two men, two visions, two banks shaped by hardship. And eventually, their paths converged. In the 1920s, Ara Manette's Bank of America, Los Angeles merged with Giannini's Bank of Italy. Together, they formed one of the most influential financial institutions in American history. The growth that followed was unprecedented. By 1929, the Unified Bank of America operated more than 300 banking offices across California. A decade later, in 1939, it had expanded to over 500 branches throughout the United States. And by 1945, Bank of America had become the largest commercial and savings institution in the world. But Bank of America's influence reached far beyond finance. In the 1930s, the bank played a crucial role in nurturing Hollywood's emerging motion picture industry. When Walt Disney struggled to secure funding for an ambitious project no studio believed in, Bank of America approved the loan. That film was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the first feature-length animated movie ever produced in the United States. A film that changed entertainment forever. The legacy of the Manette-Giannini merger did not end with Hollywood. It shaped the way Americans interact with money itself. In 1958, Bank of America introduced the BankAmericard, the nation's first general-purpose consumer credit card. A card that would eventually evolve into Visa, the largest payment network in the world. And it all traces back to a small Ohio family whose life was shattered in Bucyrus. A father who lost everything. A son who rebuilt their name. And a fortune pulled from the Nevada desert that helped create a bank that would change the way America works, shops, saves, and spends. From tragedy to reinvention. From Ohio farmland to the richest gold strike the world had ever seen. From a wooden plank in San Francisco to the first credit card in your wallet. From a struggling animator to the birth of Disney's first masterpiece. From a single library appointment to a city-wide system of knowledge and opportunity. This is the story of how a family's collapse sparked a financial revolution. This is the story of Bank of America. And this is American Origins.